We're going to be checking out Riot's MMO, some information about Riot's MMO. I haven't been looking too deeply into this one. I'm curious as to what Riot is going to do. I have 2 videos queued up to see something about it.
Could be so grossly incandescent.
We have the one from Force Gaming and why Riot's MMO is going to be huge. And there's an interview with Greg Street, which, by the way, was Ghostcrawler back in his Blizzard days, for those of you that don't know. Benob1984, thank you very much for becoming grossly incandescent. Tip of the hat. Appreciate the support. Thank you. Let's take a look at the Force Gaming video.
Let us pretend for just a moment that I had a crystal ball that would show me the name of the next king of the MMO genre. The game that would put the final nail into WoW's coffin, punt all of the Final Fantasy XIV cat people into the sun, and lay to rest.
Whoa! Toxic! Punt all the cat people into the sun? What the hell?
To the argument of which MMO is in third. Is it ESO or Guild Wars 2 or Black Desert or RuneScape? Because it wouldn't matter. Because they're all trash compared to what's coming. And if I concentrate...
Ooh, the amount of rage bait. The amount of rage bait. Let's go. Let's go, Dennis.
Traded hard enough, its name would begin to materialize. No, it wouldn't be that crowd-funded mount generator known as Ashes of Creation, and it's absolutely not Arcade 2 or Throne.
Did he call it Mountain Generator? He called it Mountain Generator, didn't he? Let me hear that again. Dude, Narc is gonna lose his shit.
Be that crowd-funded mount generator known as Ashes of Creation.
Did he say crowd-funded mount generator? Mount. It's not mounted mount generator. Oh, damn, dude. Narc is going to lose his shit. Narc's going to have like a nuclear meltdown.
And it's absolutely not Arcade 2 or Throne and Liberty. It's not Bitcraft or Palia. And as much as I would like it to be, it's probably not Soulframe either. No, the longer I looked into this crystal ball, it would become more and more clear that the next king is likely to be Riot Games, as of now, still unnamed MMORPG. But how can that be? And how can I be so sure? Well, I'm not. The crystal ball told me. There's also the fact that we know pretty much nothing about the game, right? We can make some inferences based on the expansive and ever-growing League of Legends lore, and then apply that to the general framework of what a modern MMO has for features and content. But there's also the fact that the game's EP, Greg Street, also known as Ghostcrawler, seems to pretty much do all of his design brainstorming sessions via Twitter. I mean, this guy just tweets about MMO design non-stop, and that gives us some further insight onto what we might expect for the game. But in terms of like concrete announcements or blog posts, videos, or really anything through official channels detailing the upcoming game, be it its systems or features, mechanics, or even the combat system, Riot has said and confirmed absolutely nothing about this game other than the fact that they're making it. Again, we don't even have a name for this thing. So why then did my crystal ball tell me that Riot's MMO would be the next king of the genre? Really, it's simple. It comes down to 3 primary reasons. The company itself, it has a very well-documented history of developing and supporting massively successful, genre-leading live service games that a lot of people really love and are by and large considered good games. Number 2 is it has a built-in established fan base because of the prior reason. And third of all, it's money and time, which, speaking of money and time, let me tell you about today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by the Ridge Land and Sea Watch Collection. You probably know Ridge for their durable compact wallets that we've featured a few times here on the channel. Well, now they're making their own.
Dude, you guys know that at one point Ridge offered to give me a sponsorship, and I went to, I sent an email back saying that I'd love to do it, and they never got back to me. Feels bad, man. Feels bad.
Own range of watches. These are made from aluminum colors and carbon fiber materials, matching some of Ridge's most popular wallets and key cases. Each watch comes with 2 bezels and 2 straps, giving 4 unique styles. They are up to 200 meter water resistant and fully submersible, meaning you can have peace of mind doing outdoor stuff like surfing, diving, other popular gamer pastimes. And they sent me a watch to try. I've had it for a few weeks. I've been wearing it around, and it's nice. Just like the wallets, it's made of hefty materials. It feels quite durable. And hey, it tells the time, so it's good for that as well. They also come with a risk-free 45-day trial and lifetime warranty. If you're interested, head on over to ridge.com/force and use code FORCE to get 10% off and free worldwide shipping. Okay, so when it comes to my level of expectations for Riot's upcoming MMO, as I've said, it's pretty high. Like, I do expect a lot from this. Might sound crazy, especially given we really know nothing. Like, they've literally...
You guys think that Force is going to become the Narc of Riot MMO? We have Narc for Ashes of Creation, and we have Force for the Riot MMO. the two hype beasts.
Made no official announcements or had any official discussion or coverage. It's all kind of been basically just through Ghost Crawler's tweeting. And you know, he's got a lot to say and he touches on stuff about the game. And we can also pull from League of Legends history. None of what they have or haven't said is really what plays into the primary reasons my expectations are so high. My main interest predominantly stems just from the company itself, its history and its catalog of games. So for starters, I do feel like it goes without saying, but I just want to clarify how Riot has managed to make some of the biggest and most successful games in recent history. Have you heard of League of Legends? Yeah, probably, yeah. As has most of the world. And for a decade, it's been considered one of the biggest games spanning the globe. I mean, this thing is insanely popular. But when making claims on popularity, the biggest hurdle is just quantifying it. This is mainly due to the metrics that we would use to judge a game's size, like daily users or concurrent players or sales.
I think that League of Legends is fundamentally the biggest MOBA out there right now. I get that Dota 2 is also pretty big. I think League of Legends is bigger than Dota 2, in my personal opinion. But I haven't really kept up with the MOBA scene that much because the ones that I really like turn out to be unsuccessful. Like, hey, I really like Paragon. More like Paragon. Hey, I really like Heroes of the Storm. Gone with the Wind. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't play MOBAs. Seems like the MOBAs that I tend to like, they go away. Hey, you know what? If I could play League of Legends, maybe that could go away.
Sort of info is rarely made public by game companies. With the exception of anything that's on Steam, we can't consistently track player base numbers for most games unless they tell us. Now, the last time Riot talked about League's numbers was back in 2019 when they claimed to average 8 million concurrent players every day, which is insane, but yeah, we're just relying on their reporting and we kind of just have to take them on their word. Now, another popular method for judging a game's size is Google Trends. The idea being how often people are searching for a game online can give us like a rough estimate of its popularity compared to how often people are searching for other well-known large games online. And in League's case, as you can see, it is right up there with some very well-established, massively popular titles, keeping pace with the likes of GTA 5 and PUBG. It is a popular game. That's obvious. It's well known. But I'm really not even here to argue like the number of active League players. The bigger thing really is just how much money the game has made. Since 2015, League of Legends has been averaging between 1.5 to 2 billion dollars in revenue every year. The game is just making money hand over fist. And for the longest time, the running joke was that Riot was just a one-game studio and they would forever be a one-game studio. They made League of Legends, it's super successful, makes a lot of cash, and they don't really have to do anything else. They could just sit there, release new champions and skins, and coast.
In a lot of ways, what Riot did was they basically became the modern day Blizzard. They grabbed their successful IP and they branched out and they ran with it. They made a hero shooter. They made a bunch of games around the universe of Runeterra, which is the League of Legends. Like there's the Legends of Runeterra, which is like their card game. So they effectively also made a card game. They made like that single player game, which is also based on the Runeterra universe. They made the Arcane show, which is fucking amazing. And I don't know what other projects they've done because I haven't really followed Riot all that much, but I know they have a ton of shit. So they're doing fantastic. They're doing what Blizzard should have done instead of resting on their laurels. Because see, where Blizzard kind of rested on their laurels, Riot went to work. They went to work and they did work.
forever. It really seemed that way. Like they could just keep doing that for as long as they wanted. And that was the expectation because that's what was happening up until a few years ago when they started using some of that league money to branch out into other genres. In October 2019, they released a video detailing what they have been working on and their plans for the future. They had multiple new games in development, some of which were just about ready to launch. There was a competitive FPS, a fighting game, a card game, and an ARPG. Now, actually, prior to that announcement, earlier in 2019, they released Teamfight Tactics, which was a league-themed spin-off of Auto Chess, a very popular kind of mini game and a very successful game for mobile platforms. Then in 2020, we saw the launch of Legends of Runeterra, which was a league-themed spin-off.
My favorite League character is here. It's her. She's my favorite League character. Leona is a beast. Absolute beast. I would destroy players with this character. Glorious. Loved it.
For mobile platforms. Then in 2020, we saw the launch of Legends of Runeterra, which was a league-themed spin-off collectible card game along the same lines of things like Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering. Later on in 2020, they launched their tactical FPS, Valorant, which combined the precise play and strategy of Counter-Strike with hero classes kind of along the lines of Overwatch. And then last year, in 2021, we saw the launch of Wild Rift, which is more or less a League of Legends for mobile devices. And you know what? Every single one of those games has been very successful. Teamfight Tactics is the most popular auto chess game by a large margin. Legends of Runeterra, according to trends, is neck and neck with Magic the Gathering's
They didn't even bring up the game that they did with what was the name of that studio? The studio who made that other game that was also it's like a JRPG looking game almost. Not really JRPG looking game, more like JRPG mechanics. I forget what the name of it is. But like they did one of those. Yeah, Ruined King, which is similar to another one which was Night Chasers, something like that. Night War, something Chaser, Battle Chasers. Yeah.
Offering, which is MTG Arena, and it has at times peaked above Hearthstone's popularity. Since its release, Valorant has spent most of the time being more popular than both of its inspirations, CSGO and Overwatch. And as for Wild Rift, well, it is mobile League of Legends, so that has unsurprisingly been very popular as well. Even after just a year of launch, it's already generated more than 700.
I can't even begin to imagine playing a MOBA on a phone. Call me a boomer. Like, I'll take the title, dude. I'll tattoo it on my forehead. I'll tattoo boomer on my forehead. But I still won't understand the appeal of playing a MOBA on a goddamn phone. I can understand the appeal of playing a MOBA on a controller. That is cool. Because I remember playing like some Lord of the Rings MOBA that you could play on a controller. It actually translated really well. I liked it a lot. But yeah, playing friggin' League of Legends on a phone? Wild Rift is better made than the real game, which is embarrassing. Well, it's more recent.
$50 million. It's just crazy how not just like these games they're releasing in the past handful.
No, listen, I got it, guys. Here's what happened. Riot Games made a deal with the devil. They did. Just like Blizzard did all those years ago, they made a deal with the devil. 100% confirmed. And in a couple of years, the devil's going to come knocking, and Riot Games is going to fall just as hard as Blizzard. That's my theory. I'm completely joking.
Of years have survived, how they have thrived.
They made a deal with Tencent. Does that count? Yes, exactly. It does.
And in a majority of cases, surpassed what their primary inspirations were. And that's kind of the point. It's not so much the fact that they're releasing games that are popular and have made a lot of money, but that they all point towards this trend of Riot taking...
Because like, I don't know if you guys have seen Arcane. If you haven't, for starters, I would heavily recommend you guys check it out. The animation's amazing. The visuals are outstanding. Fantastic show. Love it to bits. Amazing. Can't recommend it enough. And the thing is, Arcane is like the perfect precursor to them releasing an MMO because they're establishing the lore They're establishing characters. They're doing all of these really cool things that have people excited about that universe. And if you guys remember, back when Arcane came out, like I think it's only in one season. I think it's only one season so far. I don't know if it's been 2 seasons out yet or not. If it's 2 seasons, I need to go watch season 2. I hardly ever keep up with shows, but it's like when Arcane came out, the talk, I feel like every content creator that's into MMOs at the time was like, oh man, I can't wait to be able to jump into this world. Everybody was hyped for the Riot MMO that doesn't even have a fucking name yet. Everybody was mega hyped for whatever Riot was working on, simply based on Runeterra, which is something that they're doing really, really well, because all of these things around that universe, all of these games around that universe, all being very successful, I think is a very good thing for them to come out with a decent MMO. I think that their MMO is not going to focus on trying to be nearly as complex as World of Warcraft. I think it's going to be a lot more simple, and it's probably, even if they're smart, it'll probably be crossplay between consoles and PC at least, and maybe even mobile, which they have the technology. They're working on that shit right now, so it wouldn't surprise me.
An existing game type or an existing genre, polishing it up, putting their own spin on it, and then releasing it to resounding success.
This thing that Force just said, this is what Blizzard used to do. This is what Blizzard used to do. They used to like pick up, hey, we like Rogue. Rogue is cool. Let's make Rogue. Oh, it's Diablo. Boom. Hey, we like, I think it was either Dune 2 or Command and Conquer, whatever. Like, hey, that's kind of cool. Warcraft. Hey, it's like, oh, we like this other stuff, this EverQuest thing. This is cool. World of Warcraft. You know, it's like, that's how they do their shit. Hey, this Team Fortress 2 thing looks cool. Overwatch. It's their take on all of these things, and they used to do it so well. Not so much nowadays, but you know, that was the Blizzard signature style. Pick up something that works really well, make it better, release a game.
The longest time was the same sort of formula Blizzard had become known for. World of Warcraft is their tentpole example of streamlining the MMO genre and then propelling it into the mainstream. That is pretty much what Riot is now known for as well. It is what they did with League of Legends over 10 years ago, and just in these past 3 years, with them branching into other genres, they've had success after success after success. Valorant for tactical and /hero shooters, Teamfight Tactics for auto chess, Legends of Runeterra for digital CCGs, and Wild Rift for mobile MOBAs. Each of these games are either at the top or very near their respective genres. It's been pretty impressive to watch, actually, and there is even more coming. On the immediate horizon, Riot has Project L, which is a fighting game in the League universe. This has seen very, very positive reception from the people and communities that I've followed in the fighting game scene. And they also have an ARPG in the works. This is codenamed Project F, although despite having gotten a brief glimpse of gameplay years ago, news about this and updates and information have been very lacking. But then this brings us to Riot MMO. This was first really revealed in late 2020 in fairly unceremonious fashion, with Ghostcrawler responding to a question on Twitter asking if a new game that they were seeking hires for was an MMO, to which he said, it is an MMO, and this understandably kicked up an uproar amongst fans of the genre. Now later, they updated their website with a landing page for the game's recruitment, and this really set things in stone. Riot had a full-blown MMORPG in production, and a lot of people were very, very pumped. In the years since, we have had a handful of interviews, but most information about this game has come from Ghostcrawler's, also known as his real name, Greg Street's Twitter account, as he has spoken about things like different possible playable classes, about the holy trinity of tank, damage dealer, and healer, about various types of PvE and PvP content, about gearing, about monetization. Sometimes he would be providing details explicitly related to the game that they are making, but most of the time, he really just kind of talking about general MMO design philosophy and what he thinks is good. Also, a lot of the time, he would just put out the feelers and ask the community, hey, what do you think about this particular system for MMOs? Or Or what do you think about these kind of engagements or this type of content? And just really drumming up discussion about not only the game that they're making, but more specifically just the genre as a whole. And yeah, like I said earlier, he more or less seems to be running brainstorming sessions via Twitter. From that, there has been some pretty cool bits and information that we've been able to pull here and there, talking about things like balancing the difference between skill and execution and RNG and chance, talking about the fact that they're looking to deliver a strong endgame scene with PvE raids being a big focus, that they are aiming to cater to a wide swath of players, and at the same time, they don't brainstorming sessions via Twitter. From that, there has been some pretty cool bits and information that we've been able to pull here and there, talking about things like balancing the difference between skill and execution and RNG and chance, talking about the fact that they're looking to deliver a strong endgame scene with PvE raids being a big focus, that they
Okay, PvE raids are going to be a big focus. Nice. Me likes raiding, although I should say my really big thing is I like small dungeons. Not small dungeons, like small party dungeons, like big dungeons, but for a small party of players. Because nowadays it's so hard to get like 10 people together to do a dungeon, because everybody's, not a dungeon, but a raid, everybody's schedule is just like so hectic. I'm surprised that that we were able to form like a static that works for my schedule, which is insanity. But I was surprised that we were able to make that happen on Final Fantasy XIV, and I'm super happy about it. I want to see MMO mechanics that make you switch roles on the fly, like tank gets debuff, makes him take too much damage, DPS has to swap into tank mode, take over while tank becomes DPS and healer, so on. There's already tank swaps in games. Those already happen. You get 2 tanks and you have to do tank swaps. This is a very normal thing.
They are aiming to cater to a wide swath of players, and at the same time, they don't expect everyone to love their game. They talked about why they announced it so early, basically because they figured it was going to leak sooner or later. They talked about how they would handle having League of Legends champs, about the fact that they'll be unlikely to sell power in the game. That's seeming...
I don't like that answer. This is a bad answer. It's pretty unlikely we would sell power. No. What you need to do is say, there is no way in hell we'll ever sell power. We would sooner implode than sell power. It's pretty unlikely. It's like me saying, hey, it's pretty unlikely that I'll drink coffee today. But then in the end, oops. Done it. Whoa, I'm not going to repeat that one, Mrs. Tummy Giggles. That's a little bit too spicy.
Not going to be the thing. And he's also gone into details about what he thinks has made successful games in the genre so successful and why. But frankly, a lot of those details are fairly vague, and they're really not the driving factor into my anticipation for Riot's MMO. Most of that comes down to, as I covered earlier, just the massive success that they've had so far in multiple genres. And what's come from that has been a lot of money, and with that, the freedom to take their time. MMOs are a notoriously expensive genre, one of the most expensive to develop, but then also to maintain post-launch. You could lump live service games, things like Destiny and Warframe, into that as well, but MMOs have kind of taken the crown for being very risky games. It's part of the reason why we've seen so few of them released over these past like 5 to 10 years. The genre's really slowed down because a lot of people rolled that dice in that post-WoW gold rush, and a lot of people lost. They had bad odds. It didn't work out for them. It didn't work out for a lot of companies, a lot of development studios, a lot of publishers. A lot of money got flushed down the drain chasing the dream of the MMO, and that's really a major contributing factor into why we just don't see so many of them develop nowadays. Let me give you some concrete numbers though. World of Warcraft was said to have cost $64 million to develop, and remember, this was all the way back in 2004, pre-2004, when they were actually making it. More recent MMOs have been much more expensive. The now defunct Firefall, hurts my heart to talk about,
dude, Firefall was awesome! God, it sucks so much that Firefall went down the drain, dude. I loved Firefall. Firefall was awesome. I have an interview with the developers of Firefall. The shit that they had planned was so good. You can actually find it like on my main channel if you just look up Rurikhan Firefall. I went to Gamescom, and it was actually the last interview that I had booked because it was like, I went and I saw all of the games that I had to see, like all of the Souls likes, all of those things. And I was like, now let's just go after the one thing that I'm really curious about. And Firefall was really cool, dude. Firefall was really cool. Firefall was a game that was like a third-person MMO, which had like a third-person shooter type of thing. You could get a bike. You had like this gliding mechanic. There was a crafting system. There were these thumpers. There were monsters. Just the action itself was really, really cool. I like it. You need to stop playing Monster Hunter before even that goes down the toilet. It's true. A lot of the games that I play, they just go down the toilet. But I mean, look, I think that some games are protected. Like, look at World of Warcraft. No, never mind. Actually, never mind. Never mind what I just said. Forget about what I just said. It's like, no. That's a terrible example. That's a terrible example. I was about to say, look, it's still going strong, and it's like, no, never mind. Look at Shadowlands. Oh no.
Favorite MMOs that never really launched. That cost about $100 million. Elder Scrolls Online has reportedly cost $200 million for its initial development, as did Star Wars The Old Republic and the recently released New World. And then Final Fantasy XIV, the total development cost to reach their 1.0 status is reportedly $400 million. Yes, MMOs take a lot of money.
Their 1.0 status? Oh my God. Do you guys know that in 1.0 you couldn't even jump in Final Fantasy XIV? Apparently there was a news reporter that asked in an interview to the current director of the game, which wasn't Yoshi P at the time, was some other guy. He asked him, is it true that you can't jump in your MMO? And he's like, jump? He just like laughed it off. Like jump didn't matter. It's like, what the fuck? Bro, get with the times. What do you mean?
To make, and they are very, very risky. But money isn't exactly a problem for Riot. In a recent interview with the well-known Lost Ark streamer Cannon, Greg Street sat down and talked, providing some details specifically about Riot's available budget for their MMO.
Do you feel comfortable with the budget that you have for the Riot MMO?
Oh, that's actually a really interesting question. I think I can answer it. One of the nice things about Riot is we're not going to run out of money, right? I'm not going to have a publisher that's like, you got to ship by Christmas or we're canceled. Riot will cancel this game if the game isn't good enough. They're not going to cancel the game because it gets too expensive.
And that is a pretty promising quote. They say that money isn't going to be an issue here. They have basically as much as they are going to need to make a great game. And if after however many years of development, they don't end up with something they're happy with, they're also willing just to toss it rather than releasing a bad game. Now, he touched on a couple of other interesting topics in this interview, how they are looking to serve a broad audience and that the fact that that is what makes some of the biggest MMOs so successful. They talked about what the ideal MMO monetization would be, about how if being free to play, selling only cosmetics would be a viable way to support it, and there were a few other things. Although I do want to be careful not to read too much into this because just earlier today on Twitter, he actually came out to clarify that a lot of this was discussion about his career and MMO design in general, but not specific to their upcoming project. So take any claims that are pulled from this interview about what exactly is going to be in Riot MMOs, take that with a grain of salt, because he said himself this was more just talking in generalities. Outside of any of the vague stuff that that Ghostcrawler talks about, there is also a lot of kind of safe assumptions that we can make about various aspects of the game. Things like the zones. I mean, this is a great one. Riot has built out a fairly robust world and backdrop for the League and the Runeterra universe. I mean, there's a fully interactable map of the world on their website detailing every region and having concept art, talking about the history and races that are found in each area. And there's a highly probable chance that they will be using some, if not all of these in the MMO. They've used bits and pieces of this map, of this world, of this backdrop in some of their other League themed games that they've released so far. And along that same lines as this map is just, they've very extensive lore. A YouTuber, Necrit, has put together an absolutely amazing series of videos pulling exclusively from Runeterra's lore and mapping that onto what it could possibly mean for the MMO. He's got like 30 to 60 minute long videos covering the various zones and factions, the different races and possible classes, bosses and raids that we could see, and then most recently he put up a video on legendary loot, and like a true gamer, he's done all of this in his pajamas. Very proud of you.
What a giga
So yeah,
Chad.
there is a lot that we can kind of presume about this game, but as I mentioned, none of that stuff even matters. Any of the specifics that they've talked about, Ghostcrawler in particular, any detail he's talked about anything of the game or MMOs in general, whether or not that even ends up applying to what they're making, it really just doesn't matter, because that's not the reason my expectations are so high. Really, it boils down to those points that I've made. They have established that they can make phenomenal games that people love, and for that reason become massively successful and make boatloads of money. With that, they also have this established player base. Large numbers of people who love League of Legends, who love the Runeterra universe, and would transfer that into whatever they're making. I think especially an MMO, because it is an immersive and more realized version of games that people have already played. You know what I mean? I don't think it should come as a shock to anybody that the two most popular MMOs in existence, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, they both have well-established histories as a franchise. They have lore and characters and places and worlds and all of this stuff and narrative arcs that brought people into those games. Now, that alone isn't going to make your game successful, but if you have a good game and you have that kind of nostalgia that you can pull from, it's no surprise to me that WoW and Final Fantasy XIV and also ESO.
I think the Final Fantasy XIV might not be a particularly good example. I mean, I guess you can say that the primals, you know, they've been summons and other games and stuff like that, but the characters are all original to Final Fantasy XIV. It's not like Final Fantasy XIV is pulling in characters from, well, I guess they have pulled some, but not necessarily like through the MSQ. Most of the characters in the MSQ are completely original characters. It's packed with fan service. Yes, there is fan service, but like, you're not going to tell me like, oh yeah, Thancred, he's been on Final Fantasy whatever, you know? Yeah, there's Evilise and Stormblood. You know, Force is talking about bringing in players, fresh players. Bringing in players that are starting the game. You know, people are not going to play, you know, Final Fantasy VII and be like, oh yeah, let me go play Final Fantasy XIV. I'm sure Cloud will be in the story. That's not, you know. You do have traditional Final Fantasy stuff. I don't know if it's a good example, but an important thing is, yes, if you go through the story long enough, you establish kind of like a rapport with some of these characters, and that is important.
Are three of the top 5 most popular MMOs on the market, at least here in the West right now. It's not a shocker. And that's also going to be one of the hurdles for many of the other MMOs. You know, you take a look at Ashes of Creation, and I think that shows a lot of promise, but it doesn't have the nostalgia to pull from. And I also think in general, because of the nature of it being a crowdfunded game, I don't expect Ashes to reach a mass market. I think it's going to be a great MMO. I have a lot of expectations for that. I know that I will play it, and I know a lot of other hardcore.
Narc is watching this video right now, and he's like, he's malding so hard, he started reverse malding, and he's actually growing hair now. That's how hard Narc is malding at this video.
MMO fans are very excited, but if we're talking about like mass market appeal, a game that's likely to hit high numbers, everything that is in development that we know about right now, Riot's MMO is certainly at the top. That's my expectation, at least. That's where I would put my money. We'll see what happens. I don't have a crystal ball. Like, I have a glass of water, but that doesn't really tell me the future. But if my intuition is right, yeah, put your money on this, whatever it is they're making. It almost doesn't matter, because as they've showcased, they can just take a genre and make a great game in it, and a game that is very successful and popular. And that's what I expect here as well. We'll see what happens. I'll give it 3 to 5 years, maybe. That's my guesstimate. Until when we see this, we'll see. But that's it for me today. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Take it easy.
So make sure to go in here, give it a like. We love Force's stuff. And give it some watch time as well. Don't just go in there, like, and leave, because that's actually bad for the algorithm. So either let it playing in the background, come back, watch it later, do something. But yeah, make sure to support it because it's really good content. And when it comes to the whole thing about Riot MMO, am I curious to see what it is? Yes. Am I going to be like super hyping it up? Like, I don't think I've hyped up that many things except maybe Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is always the thing that I'm mostly hyped up for. When it comes to MMORPGs, I feel like I've kind of learned my lesson. I'm like, I'll play it if it's good. If it's not good, I won't play it, or I'll play it while I feel like playing it. It's whatever. And when it comes to business models, the one that I would like them to use would be buy to play with cosmetics. I think buy to play with cosmetics is to me, my favorite business model, which is interesting because the two ones that I'm playing right now have a subscription fee. I'm not against subscription fee, but I feel like subscription fee recently has lost a significant amount of value because, yeah, you pay a subscription fee, but you still don't have access to all of the content in the game. There's still plenty of content that is locked away in the store without you having the means to actually access it. And I think that's kind of bullshit, personally. I'm not a big fan of that. I feel like if you are paying a subscription fee, all of the content should be available to you, even if it is something where it's like, oh, you have to do this really hard raid and you need like these people to do this hard raid. Fine, but I can do it if I want to. If I want to dedicate myself to doing it, I can. It being behind the store, I'm not a big fan of it. So, and I have criticism for that for both the games that I'm playing, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV. I've criticized both of the games for doing that, but it is what it is. I hope it's good. Again, another good MMO in the MMORPG genre, I think, is a good thing. I think I was going to say I think they'll struggle for a subscription fee, but to be honest, I don't think they would because they're massively successful and they already have an established player base in their launcher. So I could see them do just fine, particularly if they reward players potentially for playing, because you can see a lot of like cross benefits, like, oh, you play League of Legends, we'll give you this reward in the game. You play Legends of Runeterra, we'll give you this reward in the game, which is a smart thing to do. But, we'll see how it pans out. I'm very curious. I want to see what they come up with. And yeah, it is what it is.